sure takes us back a few years. Welcome back and welcome in Ron Boone, former Idaho State Bengal, former Utah Stars and Utah Jazz guard. And wait, in that video, did I see you actually pass the ball?
That didn't happen that often.
I was going to say, that's the vintage stuff right there. All right, you're here to help us get a grip on the Jazz season opener on Wednesday with Kevin Durant, the Oklahoma City Thunder in Energy Solutions Arena. First of all, Jazz go 1-7 in preseason. Does that bother you at all?
No, it really doesn't. Why? Because this is a very young, inexperienced basketball team, and I think the growth of this team from game to game was more important, I think, than actually winning. Because this is a team that you have to ride with for throughout the season. And so I think the coaching staff had to be very pleased and impressed with some of the things that happened throughout the preseason. But I don't necessarily think that the 1-7 was that big of a deal.
Okay, so what did you see in preseason and say, okay, I like that, or okay, I don't like that. That's got to change.
Well, I think the development of Hayward and what I think the Jazz are going to get out of Favors. I think he can be in the top 10 or top 8 in rebounds per game, and obviously Derek's Gordon's going to have a very good season there as well. But we got a chance to see Gobert in the last 2 basketball, Rudy. And what he's going to give to this team defensively, because I really think the Jazz are going to have to hang their hat on being a very good defensive team to get them off to a good start in the month of November.
Yeah, Favors, what do you have against Blake Griffin? 24-17?
Yeah.
Boy, if you could get
awesome
that.
numbers. Yeah, those are awesome numbers. Yeah. And even in the last 2 ball games, he's been averaging about 12, something like that. But minutes out on the floor is going to be very important for those guys for growing and helping this team win some basketball games.
Favors signed a big contract. He said it's time for him to put up on the floor. When you sign contracts, I know it's a completely different egg right now with these players, but is that motivation? And I say, okay, I've got it made for a couple of years. How do you think he's going to handle that?
I think once you get that out of the way, then they can start focusing on other things. And obviously, Derek had a good summer. You can see some improvement from this year, from last year, and especially on the defensive end of the floor. Now, minutes on the floor is going to be very important for these guys, and minutes is going to be very important for the coaching staff to keep them on the floor. I mean, they can't get in foul trouble, and it's not going to help the Jazz.
Yeah. Now, of course, you got Cantor, you got and Favors relying heavily because Jefferson and Paul Millsap are gone, so it's basically those guys in the middle.
Yeah, that's what they have to.
Have you liked the progress you've seen in the preseason?
I really have, and from I've watched every practice during training camp, and then I've been at every basketball game, and you can see that they're really starting to bite into what the coaching staff is trying to do, especially on the defensive end of the floor, which is something that's very important.
Now, you've watched every practice. You've seen Karl Malone work with these guys. We watched him a little bit before practice, but he seems to be getting through to these guys, and you can see a little bit of Karl Malone in a couple of their moves this year, which we didn't see a year ago.
He's very vocal, and they hear him. I mean, and he stopped practice a couple of times, because guys were not doing what they're supposed to do. He was teaching them some small things, and I think the most important thing is how to use your body. Young guys don't know how to use their body when they come into the league.
Ty Corbin was going to rely heavily on Trey Burke, but he's out 3 months with a surgery on his finger. Jamal Tinsley, they re-signed him. They're in a world hurt at point guard, aren't they?
Yeah, they are, yes.
Can they overcome that?
Well, they're going to have to, but I think this was a great signing, bringing Jamal Tinsley back. I thought that I was hoping that he was able to stick around for this year. Yeah. Because watching him practice and watching him play last year, I thought he did a lot of teaching. We've been working and talking to other guys out there on the floor, and I think with his knowledge and his expertise of how to be a point guard would have really helped Trey, because Trey is, this injury is setting him back a little bit.
Yeah, so hopefully he'll be able to come back from that. All right, we've been talking about the season opener for this Wednesday against Kevin Durant. Let's bring in Jeremiah. Jeremiah, we were talking about this a little bit last night. You're doing some research on the season openers, which a little surprising to all of us, I think.
Yeah, I found that season openers haven't always gone well often for the Jazz. Just 18-21 all-time, 2-13 on the road. But I also found some memorable moments and remarkable performances. Let's count down the top 5.
3, shot won't go to rebound. Darren Williams from backcourt, he fires at the buzzer. Back to the end. It goes. A three-pointer.
Darren Williams made quite a first impression in his first NBA regular season game on November 2nd, 2005. That was 3 of Darren's 18 points off the bench. Memo, leading scorer in the game, 27 points, 8 rebounds. Andre Karolinko had 7 points, 10 rebounds, 5 assists, and 6 blocks as the Jazz beat the Mavs 93-82. back to November 1st, 1996 for number 4. The Sonics beat the Jazz in the Western Conference Finals the previous season. The Jazz sent a message that day. Karl Malone had 27 points, 13 rebounds. John Stockton had 24 points and 8 assists. The Jazz get a small amount of revenge, beating Seattle 99-91. That team would reach the NBA Finals.
At the rim so often in this first quarter. McLeod over the pass to Boozer.
Number 3, November 3rd, 2004. Carlos Boozer made quite a first impression in his first game as a Jazz man. Boozer had 27 points and 11 rebounds. Matt Harpring had 23 points. Andre Kirilenko 8 blocks. The Jazz opened that season with a win over the Lakers despite 38 points from Kobe Bryant. Adrian Dantley always started the season with a bang in 6 season openers in a Jazz uniform. He averaged 35 points per game. He had 39 in the 1981 season opener here, a 105-89 win over the Dallas Mavericks. He scored 40 points in the 1983 season opener.
Stockton in a hurry.
Oh, that poor guy. November 3rd, 1989. Number 1 on our countdown, a 122-113 season opening win over the Denver Nuggets. Karl Malone abused the Nuggets for 40 points and 16 rebounds. John Stockton was also spectacular. He scored 23 points and dished out 19 assists. He also hit a buzzer-beating 3 in that game. Stockton and Malone at their absolute best. And Ron, one thing that stuck out to me while doing this was the greatness of Adrian Dantley, a teammate of yours. You played with him in some of those openers. What was it about Adrian Dantley that allowed him to be so consistent each and every game?
There was a few things. First of all, he was an undersized forward that used his body very well, but boy, he was a scoring machine. Yeah. I mean, he could put the ball in the basket, shot good free throws, and he liked the basketball. You know, he was like me. He didn't like the pass either, but he was awfully good.